In this lesson, we're going to discuss selecting and moving objects. If you'd like to follow along, go under the File menu to Open, and in the Sample Files folder, go to 0402, Secrets to Selecting and Moving, and just click Open. How do you select an individual object? Easy. Go to your Selection tool, the black arrow, or you could just hit your V key to get there really quickly and then just click on the object to select it. But I could also go to my Layers panel, and let me click the little disclosure arrow next to my photos. If I click on the selection square next to a particular listing, it's actually going to select that particular object. Let me go to another selection square. If I Option or Alt click on that selection square, it's going to select the image contained in that graphic frame. Another way to select an image, let me just click off of everything to deselect everything. If I'm using my selection tool and I go over the top of an image, you can see there's this little icon that kind of looks like a donut. That's known as the content grabber. If I just click on that content grabber, it's going to select the image contained by the frame instead of the frame itself. Another thing I could use the content grabber for is, without selecting anything, I can click and drag on the content grabber to move the image within the frame. And you can see nothing is selected, yet the image moved within the frame. Let me undo that, Command-Z or Control-Z on a PC. What if I wanted to select an object that was underneath another object? Well, let me select my caption. And there's a process called drilling down. If on the Mac, I hold down my Command key on a PC Control, and I click again, I'm selecting right through that top object. And if I hold down that Command or Control key again, I'm now selecting my background. So you can select objects that are covered up by other objects. I'm going to select all of my image frames. I'm going to click on the selection square next to my photos layer. And you can see it's selected all of my photos that are in that layer. What if I wanted to select all of the images contained within these frames? What I could do is just go to my control panel, and there's this little icon immediately to the right of what looks like a P. If I click on that icon, it's going to select the content within the frames. If I wanted to delete all of these images, I have them selected. All I have to do is hit delete, and they'll all go away. And I can replace those images with other images. Let me hit Command-Z or Control-Z to bring my images back. What about working with groups? Well, what is a group? I'm going to select a group, and you can see that when I select a group, it has a little dashed line going all the way around the bounding box. What is it? Anything that's grouped, if I click and drag on the group, it's going to move not only, in this case, the text, but there's these little lines on either side of my text frame. Let me undo this. How is it grouped? I have my group selected. Let me ungroup it. I'm going to go under the Object menu to ungroup. And you can see now it is actually 3 separate objects. I'm going to lock my background so I don't select that by accident. And I'm going to click and drag across those 2 lines and the text frame. To group it, I go into my Object menu to group, or I could hit Command-G on a Mac, Control-G on a PC, and it is going to group it. You can see those dashed lines going all the way around the bounding box again. But is it possible to select part of a group? Absolutely. If I double-click on my group, you can see now I just have my text frame selected. If I click on one of the lines, I'm selecting just that. Let me click off of my entire group. If I click on my group again, I'm selecting the whole group. Let me just zoom in a little bit here. I'm going to go to my zoom tool. You can hit your Z key to get there very quickly. And I'm going to zoom in on one of my images. Go to my selection tool and click on my caption. And then go over the image, and you can see that I have my content grabber. If I hold down my Shift key, I can add to my selection and watch what happens. The caption is actually moving with the image. Let me undo that and go back and fit my page. I'm going under the View menu to Fit Page in Window. What if I'm typing? Let me just double click to get to my text frame and then double click again on the frame to get an insert point and actually select the text. What if I wanted to switch temporarily to my selection tool? On a Mac, if I hold down my Command key, on a PC, my Control key, I'm accessing temporarily the selection tool, and I could move that object around. What if I just wanted to get to my selection tool? If I were to type a V, which is the keyboard shortcut for the selection tool, what's going to end up happening, being that my type is selected, I'm just going to type a V. Not a good thing. Let me show you. Not cool. Let me undo that. Command Z, Control Z. What I could do is hit Escape. And Escape will take you to the selection tool as well. And you can see that now my text frame is actually selected to move. Okay, what about moving objects? I could just click and drag to move it. Let me undo that. Command or Control Z. But are there any other ways to move objects? Let me go into my Object menu to Transform, Move. And this gets me to a dialog box. And you can see it already moved the object. Let me go back to 0 here. It's just picking up my last settings. If I wanted to move this a ½ inch to the left, I would put minus 0.5 in that dialog box, and then I have a choice of OK, cancel, or copy. If you're not seeing anything happen, make sure to click Preview. I mean, if I uncheck Preview, nothing's going to happen. If I hit Copy, instead of just moving the object, it's going to make a copy of the object moved. So let me just delete that. Another way to get to that same dialog box, instead of going under the Object menu, Transform, I could just double click on my selection tool and get to that same dialog box. And you can see it has the very last settings I put in here. So I could use those settings again and again if I wanted. I'm just going to hit Cancel. Another way to move objects is in the Control panel. If I wanted this object to move, let's say, an inch, all I would have to do is type a plus mark and 1. And if I hit Enter or Return, it's going to move that object 1 inch to the right along the x-axis. We're going to continue talking about working with objects in the next lesson.